Hey, you. Welcome to the Crawford Show. Another episode, another adventure in living. If you guys are watching me live, I am in a co-working space in Panama that we are very likely going to rent an office in. And I'm trying out their soundproof podcasting room. What I find very funny about this room is that it's not that soundproof. But this co-working space is stunning. For a low monthly amount, you can get your own private office. You can work in the public space. They have meeting rooms and all kinds of things. So we're really thrilled. And the general manager of this space is very, very interested in bars. And honestly, we're finding so many people in Panama that we're running into that are like hungry for bars. So just for all of you guys that are bars facilitators, like something has shifted in the world. There's a different opening available. And all you have to do is talk about them, okay? Okay, so let me get into it. So I called this week's episode Doubt, Drama, or Source. Hey, Faith. Hey, Susanna. And for those of you guys that are live, just say hi. If you're listening to this in the future, hi to you too. This show, of course, was created from my own personal experience over the last month. And I've heard and gotten so much feedback over these last 4 episodes and how helpful they've been. And so I'm really hopeful that this one is equally helpful. Oh my goodness, where do I start? So I have a foundation class coming on Thursday. I have no idea. Thursday, this week. If you're listening in the future, not relevant. But if you are not listening in the future, this is your invitation to that. Ooh, gosh, where do I start with this? So the reason I wanted to have this conversation is because I had a pretty huge breakthrough in everything that I've been struggling with since I moved here over the last 4 days. And I want to share it with you so that if you're also struggling with things that perhaps this will help. The choice I made, I'll start with this. The choice I made came at the end of a very long day of trying to hash through and bash through some insanity that I was doing in and around relationship stuff, and realizing at the end of that conversation that I literally I could be the source of drama and upset, or I could be the source of what I wanted to be the source of. And it just hit me like a lightning bolt. So here's what I want to start with. I didn't plan this conversation at all. I don't have any notes for this. So here's what I want you guys to get. You are not the source of other people's choices, period. You're not God. You can't make them choose or not make them choose. You're not the source of that. People choose what they choose because they choose it. However, you are the source of what can contribute to greater or lesser choices, both for you and for everyone. Now, what I've been experiencing over this last month is such a diverse range of awareness taken in an unproductive way. Okay. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just go listen to the last 2 or 3 episodes and you'll know what I'm talking about. Hi, Nina. Hi, Faith. Hey, Parisa. What if 99.99999% of all your thoughts, all your feelings and your emotions aren't yours, and you look at your life and how you are handling that? Are you handling your life as the walking, talking awareness that none of this is yours and you're the source of what you want to be the source of and you get to choose that? Or are you walking, talking around in another way? Are you reacting to things? Are you fighting things? Are you, descending into the depths? So those have been historically some of my favorite choices, some of my most common choices. And when all of this really came to a peak like 4 or 5 days ago, it was a day where I had been trying a lot of different kinds of conversations to get somewhere. Since I've moved here, I've had more intensity in my body, more of what's felt like anxiety and stress and insecurity and all those common things that most people talk about. I've had more of that going on than ever before. But as of 5 days ago, it changed. So let's backtrack to 5 days ago. It was the final day of like trying to come up with what the fuck was going on. Now, I know enough to know that I'm aware. I also know that people can be contributing to things. And so, in an effort to find the opening to more ease and more glory and just something that's more fun than this, I was like trying this conversation with Andres and trying these tools and trying this. And at the tail end of it, at the end of this day, where we had had every single possible conversation you could have, he was sitting across from me going, the only thing that I can see with this path we're on right now is more struggle. And that's really kind of what was that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back, in the sense of I heard him say that, and I looked down the pathway at the future that we were creating with these conversations we kept having over this one thing. And that's all I could see down that pathway too. We were in that moment destined by creation, by choice, to just struggle. Now, I don't know what it was about that comment that shook me out of it, but it did. And so I stood there in the kitchen, and it hit me like a wave, I don't even know, it hit me like an atom bomb wave that just changed everything. That I had been the source of where we had just gotten to. I had been the source of most of this difficulty. Now, had he contributed? Sure. Yeah, of course. Everybody contributes things and all that. But I had been the source of it. And if I wanted to be the source of something else for us, I could choose that too. And I've never seen it so clear. It was either I'm going to be the source of a future where we continue to struggle, or I'm going to be the source of what I really want to have, which is ease and joy and fucking glory. That's what I really want to have. That's what's really much more fun for me. It's really a lot more fun to walk through the world knowing and being and receiving and perceiving. And in that moment, I made a different choice. I literally just made a different choice. Now, I wouldn't say that being the source is a beginning conversation. So it's if this is way beyond where you're at right now, turn me off and come back in 5 years. It's cool. But I do think it's a conversation worth having, because I realized at that moment that Andres is a really incredible man, really incredible. He's got a lot of power and a lot of caring. And I set the tone. So maybe that's my first question for you. Are you willing to know that you set the tone? Just first and foremost, are you willing to know that? And when I say that, does stuff come up for you? Initially, before that moment, I was really fighting that I had to be the one that set the tone. Why do I always have to be the one that sets the tone? Why can't I, have somebody that's strong for once? And all these kind of 11-year-old laments of why do I always have to be the one, that kind of energy. I'm not always strong. I want to struggle too, kind of that. Well, it was super unconscious. Are you willing to know that you set the tone? Now, especially for you women. Girl to girl. Are you willing to know that you set the tone? Are you willing to be, that's the first step. It's just can you look at that? Now, what's the tone you're setting? Maybe that's question number 2. How's that going? Right? And then question number 3 is is that the tone you want to be setting? Is that the tone that is really working? Is it working? Do you want to be setting that? Is it creating the world you want to live in and have internally and externally, Because for me, that's really what drives me, is when I'm really angsty inside, that's the source of a lot of looking at things for me, because I don't really want to live there. I've lived there way longer than I want to live this last month. And thank fuck I made a different choice, because it's been so peaceful since then. But it's that's not really where I want to live. I actually want to have, I've had enough time now with total ease that I really like that. And I've noticed that when I am being that he has a lot more ease. He's able to actually be him. So, I mean, that was the switch for me. It was like, oh my God, like I'm the source here. Like we are either going to have this future or we're going to have this other future, and I'm the source of that. And that set me free. I don't even know how to explain that. That set me free, and that set us up for something totally different. Because in that moment, I just claimed it. I'm like, I'm the leader. This is just true. And what do I want to be the source of? So what occurred that night was like I made that choice, and then I just started choosing from that, and I didn't tell him anything. I literally switched from being someone who had problems into being somebody that was going to just contribute to something else. So we had a really hard day, and his body was having a hard time. And so I ran some body processes on him and supported his body because he'd had a really hard day at my hands. And I do want to clarify this, because it isn't that he doesn't have his own choices. Like, the people in your life have their own choices. If he was able to, in that moment be stronger and really get that everything I was saying was an interesting point of view and then, he would have had more access to what's really true for him. But he didn't have access to that in that moment. And that's the thing. I guess that's the bigger point of this conversation. It's like, when you're functioning from, well, things should be this way and they're not, you have no power. When you start to function from, things are this way, now what am I going to choose? Then you have all the power. So it's like, what is it that you're not acknowledging about what is in regards to what you're struggling with? If you're doing struggle, if you're doing drama, or you're doing doubt and not source, what you want to be the source of, what is it that you're not acknowledging about what's happening right now? Are you acknowledging what's really true for the people around you? Yes or no? Are you acknowledging what's really true about you? Yes or no? Are you acknowledging what you really want to create? Yes or no? Are you acknowledging whether or not that is occurring? Yes or no? And so as that was all kind of hitting me, like, wow, what's really true here is, like, even though I think he should have all the choices I have, for example, or, be choosing to be more interesting point of view for his own sake, and not fall to my drama or whatever I'm doing, like, he should be stronger than that. He didn't have access to that. Might he? Maybe. Is that relevant? No. Because the truth is that I have access to those choices. And I wasn't choosing them. So that's another question. What choices do you have access to that you're not choosing, that you could choose, that if you would choose them would create total clarity and ease? And everything that doesn't allow that to show up, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right, wrong, give up, pop, online, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Now, I'm not saying this is an easy conversation. It's like, it's pretty confrontational. It's like, not, blah, 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 all those things. But who the fuck cares? It's like, what do we have to look at to be free? Like, that's what I'm interested in. Ultimately, I'm interested in being free. I get hooked into wanting to be right, but ultimately I want to be free. So what do you want? Are you looking and seeking to be right, or do you want to be free? If you want to be free, you got to get what you're the source of. You got to get that you set the tone. You got to get that every time you walk into a place and you make choices inside of yourself, that you are affecting the world around you. You are affecting the world around you. Now, how do you want to affect the world? Now, so as that was all clicking into place, what I realized in that moment when I chose to be the source, and those were the words that came through my head. What do you need to look at to be free? What am I the source of that I'm not choosing? That's what you need to look at. What am I the source of that I'm not choosing? What am I the source of that I'm refusing? What am I the source of that I am not willing to be? And what could I be willing to be? And I guess the other facet to this is that you can choose anything. You can be the source of anything. I've seen that, we've illustrated that in this conversation already. You can be the source of drama and doubt. And those are probably easier choices because everybody's doing it. It's like, well, everybody's falling off the cliff, so falling off with them is easier in a sense. Standing over here in you being you and not falling off the cliff takes more courage, takes more power, takes more strength, takes more knowing, right? Those may or may not be things that you've fully strengthened in yourself yet. So in a sense, like, you can be a source of anything. How is what you're choosing right now working though? That's the only thing you ever have to ask yourself is like, okay, how is this working? Okay, but I'm stuck in this. Well, are you? Or have you just not made another choice that would give you access to what it is that you are and know and perceive and receive? Okay, so made the choice. Now, what followed after that was the last 4 days where I have had to be really diligent and active with myself. So there's going to be these kind of game-changing moments where you're like, okay, this just ends right now. We are choosing something else. I am choosing this, right? And to me, those are like demand moments of like, whatever it takes, this is changing now. Then there's the diligence required to be with you in a different way. So like for me personally, in this scenario, I had just spent the last month doing I was really, really torn up inside and doing things with that. In between facilitating, which is so interesting because when I'm facilitating, I don't do any of that. I'm me, I'm clear, right? But when I was getting into my personal life, I wasn't being a facilitator. I was being a person, which is that's not your brightest choice. If you ever want to really get how you are and what's really true about you, go start being a facilitator because that's when you show up fully. Anyway, so over the last 4 days, I have had to be, especially the first 2 days after, I had to be really, really diligent with myself. And what do I mean by that? I had to start catching myself in the moments where just a day prior, I would have gone into this contracted, collapsed zone. And that's really what was occurring for me. And I can have we could do a whole other episode on, awareness of collapsed zones versus having a collapsed zone. That is relevant. But over the last month, what I'd been choosing and what had been gotten activated was this place where I was doing collapsed zone rather than expanded zone. Now, as an infinite being, we are bigger than the universe. Like if you don't know, you can just close your eyes and go and try to find an edge of you. You may discover that there are no edges. So that's actually how big our zone was. But when you have a lot of shit going on, or you're doing a lot of drama or doubt, you are living in a collapsed zone. So every single piece of awareness or things I had invented as triggers were creating in me instantaneously collapsing my zone and going into coping and survival. So over the first 2 days after this new choice, I literally had to work with myself in every moment and go, okay, cool. And so a lot of what I did is I just used the clearing statement on everything that was triggering me. I just did everything that is right, wrong, good, bad, POD, POC, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Right, wrong, good, bad, POD, POC, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. I started using that. I just sprinkled that shit on everything that was like coming up. Very indiscriminately, like no specificity at all. And you can get more info on that statement at theclearingstatement.com if this is new for you. So, and then I just literally was like, okay, I could see in that moment where I was collapsing that I was no longer, I in that moment had given up being the source. That source thing was doing something for me. It was like, okay, cool. So what is it? What is it that I know? And so I would return myself to the sensation of source, of that sensation of knowing. Now, if you're new to this, you may not have created that for yourself very much. So you may have to ask the universe to show you what that is for you. But I have cultivated enough of it so I have a sense of what that is. And so I would return myself to that sense and go, nope, we're not doing that. We're being something different here. And I would continue then to choose from being the source rather than choosing from trying to fix a collapse. Just so you guys know, you can't fix collapse. You can only choose something else. But I think it's important to recognize when you do it. And this collapse zone and expanded zone was something that got reactivated in my world in terms of remembering it from an email from Julia Sotis. She's always like triggering amazing things for me. And I started looking at it. And what happens for most, like if you have this expanded zone versus collapsed zone conversation with animals, where you're going to see it is in animals that have been abused, they have a collapsed zone. And Gary Douglas talks a lot about working with animals who have been abused. And one of the first things that he does is he goes in and he actually energetically expands their zone. Animals' natural zone of awareness is like, well, a horse. A horse's zone of awareness is about 20 miles in all directions. But if you are working with an abused horse, their zone is crumpled. So they literally can't function because they aren't being themselves. They aren't naturally tapped into the earth 20 miles in all directions. And so they're like freaked out about everything and upset and like activated, right? So for animals, you expand their zone. But it's the same with people. And what got activated for me was all of these collapse zone moments that had gotten created through my entire life, kind of up to that point. So you can't fix or change anything or create anything from there. And it's the same as we talk about in the How to Become Money workbook of like, you can't create a flow of money from worry and need and lack. You can only create from knowing that I am power, I am awareness, I am creativity, I am money. That's where money can show up. So it's the same conversation. So I say that because over the next 2 days, I had to be very diligent with myself to return myself to, I am this. I am this. We're choosing from this. We're choosing from this. We're choosing from this. And I think that's important to mention because there's this misconception about the tools that I find that work is not required as long as you just ask a question. It's not true because we actually have to learn a different way of being. And at different times in your life, different parts of the process, what you're asking for will require of you that you actually put in some new work. You're asking for, a universe of, let's just say, like the Shangri-La of realities. And the universe can deliver that, how it can show up, when it can show up. But what might come first are like, the ingredients for the foundation for that city, or all the workers that are going to help you institute it, which are going to require working with them and learning how to work with them and all this stuff, right? What's going to show up is the ingredients for a different reality. And so what will be required of you is to then learn how to work with all those ingredients in the institution of this Shangri-La reality that you're asking for. It's showing up. And that's what I recognize, which is showing up for me, is that I've asked for total awareness and total receiving. Those aren't small. So guess what gets to show up when I ask for that? Everything that I'm doing unconsciously that doesn't allow that to be my reality. So for you, what's showing up for you is everything that needs to be out-created, chosen beyond, learn something new in order to have what it is that you're asking for. So the whole setting the tone conversation is huge. Get that you set the tone. Look at the tone you're setting. Look at what you could choose to set a different tone if that's what you want to have. And look at what's really true for you. I think that's in setting a new tone, you have to really look at what's true for you. For me personally, what I end up looking at is like the results of the choices I'm making. I look at those and I go, do I like these? When I had that moment when he was sitting at the table kind of beaten up and he said, the only thing I can see down this road is more struggle. I looked at that too and got that too. And I was like, that doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for me. And that's what I'm being the source of in this scenario. No. I am capable of something else. I will be the source of something else, period. So I think that's really my home play invitation to you is, to look at all the different parts of your life. Look, whichever one is maybe being the loudest right now. Look at what you're being the source of there. Look at if that's working for you. And really, really, really like ask yourself if you want to be the source of something else and if you're willing and what that could be for you. And if you need a stimulative shot in the arm and change, then come join me for Foundation, because that class, no matter how much you take it or facilitate it, is game changing for this stuff. All right. That is all I have this week. If you love this, share it with your friends. Go to iTunes if you don't mind and leave a review. That would be amazing. And what else is truly possible for us? I can't wait to see you next week, and I can't wait to see you again and have fun playing with being the source. See you soon.